Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. This story is from a deleted user titled, "I'm full of regrets, believing that my husband cheated on me when he didn't." Cheating is something that I have always had strong opinions about. I've been cheated on before and it sucked. Everyone knows that I don't forgive cheaters. So when my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, staged an elaborate scheme about my husband cheating, I ended the relationship. Our relationship unfortunately wasn't the only one that was affected. My sister-in-law Lisa, 32, her best friend Emma, 32, and my husband Jamie, 29, were best friends growing up. Emma got married early when she was 20. Her husband was abusive. She has 2 children with him. She got divorced 10 years later and she was finally free from his abuse. She suffered a lot, however, and was, and probably still is, in therapy. Her and her children. I, 30, met Jamie 4 years ago. We got married 2 years later. Everything was just awesome. What I didn't know was that Emma wanted Jamie and Lisa made it her mission, when Emma finally got divorced, to bring her brother and best friend together. I didn't know any of this, so I never knew there was a hidden agenda. When I, a few months ago into my marriage, overheard Lisa talking about how Jamie was cheating on with a married colleague of his. In hindsight, I can tell it was staged because she was saying unnecessary details and was very loud. She meant for me to hear it. I confronted her then and there, and she played very flustered and apologized and begged me not to ruin my marriage. She told me Jamie loved me and she never wanted to lose me as a sister. But at the same time, she provided me with pictures and text. They were all photoshopped of my husband and his colleague. She begged me not to mention where I found out, and I was grateful for her support and promised her not to expose her as the source. I confronted my husband with everything and he adamantly refused to admit to anything. It hurt me more that he never admitted nor apologized, ever. He asked me where I got this from, but I kept my promise and told him it was an anonymous tip. I also went so far that I contacted the colleague's husband. At the time, I thought it was the right thing to do. The colleague is this very beautiful woman that my husband worked very closely with many hours a day. I was a bit jealous of that, and I confided my fears with Lisa. She used it against me. I asked for divorce and the colleague's husband did too. After that, Lisa, who I thought was my friend, who called me her sister, disappeared from my life. Like I never existed. Even when I bumped into her, she was short with me and indifferent. Months went by and I was still heartbroken, processing the separation. My husband stopped trying to make me see reason and agreed to divorce. He said he wanted to move on. I started having doubts. Why is Lisa doing this now? She was my friend and wanted the best for me, yet now she didn't even answer my texts. I followed both her and Emma on Insta and started seeing how Emma and my husband gradually started hanging out. At least once a week, Emma or Lisa shared stories about my husband with Emma and her children. What I did next is very questionable, and yet I don't regret it at all. I was desperate and I needed the truth. I was still very good friends with Lisa's on-again, off-again boyfriends, Mike, sister. I told her my doubts and everything. I told her that Lisa was my source, that my husband was cheating, and I'm starting to doubt everything, and that I needed their help to unearth the truth. Mike was easier to persuade to help me than I expected. He had Lisa's passcodes and he went through her messages with Emma, and there was everything they have plotted. They used my idiocy and insecurity and made me throw the best thing that ever happened to me. He sent me all the proof I needed, even the original photos they used to Photoshop my husband with his colleague. My world was turned upside down again and I went down a deeper depression. I stayed in bed, called in sick for 2 weeks. I have not only ruined my life but also another family. I don't know why I'm writing here. If I just want advice or just vent. I don't blame anyone but my stupidity for ruining my marriage. I should have trusted my husband and the love he's shown me. I should have been honest with him about everything and where I got the news that he was cheating from. I should have not gone to hurt the colleague and her family just because I thought her beautiful. She has since quit her job and moved, but I still had her husband's contact information. I had to at least apologize. We met and I told him everything. He was so angry with me. He was crying and yelling at me, and all I could think of is that I deserved every insult he threw my way. I found the colleague on Instagram and DM'd her everything and a long apology. She didn't answer me. I don't know if I should tell my husband too. I know I don't deserve him at all, and I know that he doesn't want me anymore, but maybe he should just know what Emma is doing and what she's capable of doing. He deserves to know the truth. Maybe I could start with reassuring him that I'm not trying to win him back. I'm just trying to help him understand and apologize. I need to apologize for everything. I don't know. And we do have an update to this in a moment. And that part is just an insane level story. And of course, OP has to tell her husband what happened, what's going on behind the scenes. Why wouldn't you let him know? And that's pretty much the same path the comments went down. You have to tell husband about what's going on. Other people, completely not believing because of the pure vileness of some of the people in this story. But as I said, OP updated the story, which says, "Hi, have now an update. Thank you for being so supportive. I honestly didn't expect that given how long and boring my story was. I remember being so desperate and wanting to tell everything from the beginning and put it out there. Maybe try and make excuses for myself and for what I did. I appreciate that you wanted to help. I decided not to meet up with Jamie. Every time I try to text him and ask for a meeting, I panic. That wasn't a good sign at all. I wanted him to know everything, in details, and I tend to be all over the place when I'm panicking. So I decided to email him instead. I made a lot of drafts, cross-checked all the information and waited a whole day before sending, adding some details here and there that I've forgotten to include. I sent him all the manipulated pictures and the originals. Every screenshot Mike sent me from Lisa and Emma's conversations. I made it clear, however, that I wasn't trying to manipulate him to have me back, because I knew that what I did was unforgivable, but that I wanted to warn him about who he's dealing with. I told him that I'd been watching Emma and Lisa's Instagram and I've seen that he was getting cozier with Emma. I wanted him to know all the facts if he was dating her. This took all my energy to write. Just the thought of him dating Emma. I can't. I text him that I've sent him an important email. He didn't answer me. On Wednesday when I came back from work, Lisa, Emma, and Emma's 2 children were waiting for me outside my building. When I let them in, stupid me, Lisa started yelling and threatening me. She told me to call and tell Jamie and Mike that I have made up all of this because I'm a pathetic loser. She told me that I didn't want her as an enemy because she would make my life sour. Believe me, you don't want me to make destroying your already miserable life my mission. Emma just smiled the whole time. She later said that my husband always had a crush on her and that he wouldn't believe my nonsense because he could finally be with her. The thing is, I felt Lisa was more angry that Mike knew what she did rather than her brother, and she really was annoyed about Emma and told her to shut up all the time. I couldn't get them out of my apartment, so I just left and called Jamie. I told him that they were at my place and that I couldn't get them out. 15 minutes later, I saw them leave. Jamie texted then that he wanted to come over if I was alright with it. Yes. He told me that he was very hurt that I would doubt him like this and believe rumors. I told him everything again without panicking. I told him that I loved and trusted his sister. She was like my sister, and I asked him to put himself in my shoes, and if he ever happened to hear Lisa talk about me being unfaithful, would he have any doubts in his loving sister's intentions? He stayed the night and left the next morning. We've been texting several times a day and talking on the phone and FaceTime every single night since. He says that he loves me, but he doesn't know what to do. He's very hurt, by his sister and Emma of course, but even by me. He hasn't talked about cancelling the divorce process yet. I will just have to wait, and that's understandable. I've turned his life upside down twice in such a short period. On a happier note, my husband's colleague and her husband are back together. My husband met with them and apologized. I've already told them everything, but my husband felt the need to apologize personally. Mike has ended it with Lisa. Lisa and Emma's relationship is very strained. Both have blocked me from Instagram, of course, but apparently Lisa is blaming Emma for Mike leaving her. And Emma has tried to throw Lisa under the bus by telling Jamie she was innocent in all of this. I really hope my husband forgives me, and I promise that I will make it up to him and love him forever. And as always, now I'm going to turn this story to you guys. What do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story is one that was covered in the past. I think it was like over a year ago now, but it's recently come up with some additional information that was found, and it was from Sued Wife Account. It's a crazy one that's called My 36 Male Wife 33 Female Was Sued. I'm feeling resentment towards her and I don't know how to move past it. For what it's worth, this is not a post looking for any legal or financial advice. We already have a lawyer and have help financially. No offense to Reddit, but I'd rather not get any legal advice from a forum. But I'm okay getting relationship advice, it seems. As the title states, my wife was recently sued. She lost and we had to pay. The money is a significant amount for us. We didn't have much in savings or our emergency fund to begin with, and both of those accounts are now empty. My current problem is trying to move past the resentment and anger I'm feeling towards my wife. Until now, I've always felt like we were a partnership in our marriage, but since I'm the breadwinner, I can't help but feel like I'm spending my money on something that isn't my fault. I've had no problem paying the mortgage and taking care of various financial burdens that come with being a married homeowner. However, I have been the only one to put money aside in our savings and other accounts to prepare for an emergency, like a totaled car, someone loses their job, medical bills, or an act of God. Not a stupid lawsuit where I know my wife is guilty. She has a part-time job and doesn't make much money, but pays for smaller things when she can, like groceries and some random bills, but she does take good care of a lot of cooking, cleaning, and caring for our pets. What did my wife do? Note, I had no idea this was going on while it was happening. She used LinkedIn to find her former ex-best friend. She ended up creating a realistic-looking fake LinkedIn profile with a vague occupation of recruiter. My wife ended up sending this ex-best friend, Laura, a few messages pretending to be a recruiter in her line of work. Laura finally responded thinking that the recruiter was real. My wife wanted her phone number, but Laura gave her a personal email address instead. My wife created a second fake LinkedIn profile and started to send messages to people with similar titles as Laura at her company. These messages said derogatory things about Laura, a mixture of truthful things but embarrassing and just fabricated bullshit to make Laura look bad. Her manager got one of these messages that claimed that Laura was a heavy drug user. Laura's manager talked to her about these messages and he felt the messages were bizarre and seemed like someone was trying to troll or harass Laura. Well, Laura's team had her back and helped her save these messages. Not only that, but Laura requested that she be drug tested anyway to provide further evidence that she was clean. My wife didn't know this at this point, but Laura was pregnant. Several of her co-workers, including her manager, testified on Laura's behalf. Using the personal email address she got from the fake recruiter profile, she was able to find a few social media platforms Laura was on and was able to figure out her husband's name. She did some more interesting sleuthing and found Laura's husband on Facebook. Laura's husband didn't have much on his Facebook profile, but you could see his business email address on it. My wife sent him an email claiming that Laura was cheating on him. The husband confronted Laura about this email and Laura encouraged him to keep responding to this person and save the messages, as well as to start asking specific questions about this supposed affair. My wife thought that she was being clever and ended up telling the husband that Laura was cheating on him during the work week. She even gave him specific dates. What she didn't realize was Laura had something turned on in Google Maps where it keeps years worth of historical GPS data. Some of the dates my wife gave him also happened to be days where they both worked from home together. She also ended up giving him dates during a time they were on vacation together. Laura had her husband keep responding as much as possible to my wife and to back up all correspondence. My wife was able to find out when and where the baby shower was going to be. One of Laura's friends had created a public registry for her and had the invitation online. My wife decided to show up unannounced. The baby shower took place in a semi-public place. They had rented out an area connected to the public business. She did not make herself known immediately. Instead, she looked for patrons that were entering and exit the rented out room. She was able to get the attention of a few guests that had never met her and tried to gossip about Laura. My wife was telling people that Laura didn't actually know who the father was, among other things. This was at an event where her husband was at as well. The word got back around to Laura and she spotted my wife and apparently immediately put together all the pieces of what happened. I'm leaving a fair amount of information out. My wife was able to find phone numbers, social media accounts, and emails for other people in Laura's circle and sent them messages about Laura on multiple occasions. All the messages were trying to paint Laura in an extremely derogatory light. All the events I've mentioned so far took place over a year or so. My wife didn't think to mask her IP address, so it was pretty easy to find out all of these made-up messages came from the same IP address. Ours. Many of Laura's friends and family testified on her behalf. Laura had everyone saved as much digital evidence as possible, and it was a lot. Laura and her husband hired a lawyer and decided to sue my wife. They had ample evidence against her. All the saved messages, close friends, and even her manager spoke on her behalf. She showed that she went to see a therapist once all the harassment started because she was depressed and anxious. She showed that she and her husband went to counseling after the accusations of her cheating. She even went above and beyond and had more drug tests done to show she was clean and my wife's accusations were 100% false. And even had a paternity test done to show that my wife was again wrong and chose to lie. I honestly felt awful for Laura. There were lots of tears on her end. You could tell how much emotional stress she had gone through. She said that being pregnant during the majority of this was absolutely horrific and was worried the stress and anxiety would somehow hurt her baby. She was pained that her one and only baby shower was ruined by my wife, and that was something that could never be truly repaid or made up for. And that my wife's harassment continued even after Laura gave birth and was trying to manage a newborn child. My wife has never done anything this crazy before. I know she could be a little petty and jealous of others, especially people she used to be friends with in the past, but it was only talk, no action. We've had a very happy marriage otherwise. We rarely fight, have a lot in common, we have a lot of fun together, but she really fucked up this time. I don't know how to move forward. I know someone is going to suggest therapy, but I really want to start building up an emergency fund again. We're pretty screwed financially for a while. So OP updated the post, which says, by the time I was able to respond to my first post, it became locked. I read everyone's replies and thank you to those who responded with good advice. I got a lot of DMs and I wasn't able to respond to everyone, but I did read your messages. However, I did not appreciate the many comments that simply insulted my wife. I know she fucked up and I'm still very angry at her, but I want to believe she can heal and become a better person. Also, some of the DMs I got were extremely weird and hateful towards women in general, like stuff you see on Incel Tears subs. You'll need more help than me and my wife. There were some common questions I wanted to address to provide additional clarification. How did she avoid jail? I only mentioned the civil case since I felt it was the most appropriate to write about because I was originally angry about our financial situation. There was also a criminal case. Our lawyer thought she would originally have to go to jail for 3 months. However, we were able to get her punishment to be community service instead. She has a lot of community service hours to fill within a year. She will also be getting visits from a PO. Laura and her husband did file restraining orders against her. I honestly can't blame them for that. It helped my wife that she had a clean record and has family that works in law enforcement. I wanted to finish those community service hours first before we talk about her working for more hours to help pay me back. Why did she do this to Laura? That is a good question. I asked her this multiple times over the past several months to try and understand what this woman did to my wife. She would tell me that Laura deserved every horrible thing that my wife did to her. That Laura was a shitty person, a narcissist, a liar, and just overall a scumbag. But she never really gave specific examples. I've been pressing her for more info, and when she told me some specifics, it made me feel sick to my stomach. Not because of what Laura did, but because of how far my wife decided to go due to some petty things that happened in their friendship. Their friendship ended about 8 to 9, they had been friends since in early high school, years ago, and it was over a man they had both briefly dated. My wife dated Matt for a few months. She broke up with him because she thought that Matt had feelings for Laura. Laura said she didn't want to date Matt because he had dated my wife. My wife decided to test her friend Laura's loyalty and told Laura she had her blessing to date Matt. Laura and Matt ended up dating for a few months. My wife stuck around while they were dating, and once they broke up, my wife told Laura she had failed a loyalty test. They fought, and ultimately it was Laura who decided to end the friendship. Note, in case it's not clear, Laura's current husband is not Matt. Secondly, I was able to get some information from her about what inspired her to do this since their friendship had ended so long ago. My wife said she happened to see, by chance, not by stalking, Laura at a restaurant 1.5 to 2 years ago. It looked like Laura had lost a lot of weight and was fit. My wife and I are both fairly overweight, and apparently Laura used to be overweight too. My wife admitted that she felt angry that Laura had lost a lot of weight while she had never been able to. My wife was also insulting Laura and said she doesn't make a pretty thin person, and that her new muscular body was too masculine. She also insulted Laura's husband's looks and physique as well. I saw both Laura and her husband in person on multiple occasions. They both looked like normal, attractive people who obviously work out. I could also tell my wife was irritated when she saw Laura at the courthouse the first time, and you could barely tell that Laura had even had a baby. My wife admitted that she just wanted to do some snooping to try and find that Laura wasn't doing well in life. She found the opposite and was jealous of Laura's success. She first found out both of their job titles. They both work at tech companies with some sort of engineering title, and their estimated salaries by using something called Glassdoor, and if that's accurate, then both Laura and her husband make really good money. She also saw a photo on Facebook of Laura and her husband standing in front of what appeared to be their very beautiful and large home. She said she was angry because she knew that Laura wasn't deserving of any of this. She proceeded to insult Laura about how she's not that smart, not pretty, not responsible. She claimed that all Laura did through college was do drugs, drink, have sex with anything that had a penis, skip class and failed a lot. My wife said that she's the type who would cheat on her husband, that she's manipulative and is always up to something, etc. Both Laura and her husband seemed very sad and exhausted throughout the whole ordeal. I never picked up on anything sinister from Laura at all. I felt absolutely awful for her. I felt extreme shame and embarrassment whenever I was in the same room with Laura and her husband. I don't think I was ever able to make direct eye contact with either of them. So yeah, I was expecting Laura to have done something truly evil or sinister in the past, and that just wasn't the case. Does she feel remorseful? I want to say yes, she does. She has been really depressed since this all finalized. However, I can't help but think she's only sad because she got caught. She hasn't directly said anything that would lead me to believe she is truly remorseful. She is still angry at Laura for escalating to the point of a criminal and civil case. She feels that Laura overreacted. My wife believes every horrible thing she said about Laura. She's convinced that Laura is some kind of alcoholic drug addict who cheats on her husband and is the type to lie and cheat her way to the top of her career. And somehow Laura is able to hide this from everyone in her life. My wife felt like she was trying to expose Laura for the monster that she is. She feels that Laura pressing charges and suing her is additional proof that Laura is vindictive. My hope is that she has time to think while she's doing her community service hours over the next year. I think she feels bad that I had to empty our accounts and sell some things to come up with the money. I talked to her about working more hours once since she had finished community service, and she agreed. Are you going to get divorced? The thought has crossed my mind, but we've been together for so long and I still love her despite this disgusting thing she has done. I can't see my life without her, but I know, and I'm having a hard time admitting this myself, that if she doesn't improve or learn a lesson from this mess, then I can't be with her anymore. A lot of people mention that if she can do this type of thing to an ex-friend, then she can do the same to an ex-husband. This has me worried some. I'd like to believe she wouldn't go nuclear on me if we did file for divorce. I'll be taking precautions in case I have to defend myself in the future. Why is she only working part-time? She is a licensed masseuse and works at a really nice salon/spa. Her hourly wage is pretty high, but she hasn't been able to get the hours she wants at the spa she works at. She could probably get a more full-time position at a different spa but with a slightly lower hourly wage, which would still bring in more income than what she is doing now. She really likes the place she is at and doesn't want to leave, but I may pressure her to full-time work elsewhere to help pay me back and refill our emergency fund once she is done with the community service. At the moment, she is on board with helping me put the money back into our savings account. What about therapy? I know we need this, both as couple and individuals, to deal with this mess. I talked to her about this and she doesn't seem totally sold on the idea of therapy. I've expressed that I think it would help both of us, and she seems indifferent at this point. I've talked to her parents, who are really angry and disappointed in her. They basically begged me not to leave her over this. I told her parents that I think therapy would help both of us, but I can't afford it now. They offered to pay for couples therapy, but that is as much as they'll be able to afford, so it's a start. I know my wife will need individual therapy, and if that means I stop going to couples therapy so she can get one-on-one help she needs, so be it. I'm not ready to call my wife a psychopath, as many commenters did in the last post. I think she got carried away and thought she was trying to expose someone she truly believed was a bad person. I'm heavily leaning towards that she has had some sort of mental breakdown and focused all of her energy on this one woman and her life. I'm not going to give up on my wife yet. It's very possible that she has some underlying mental issues that could very well be treated with therapy or meds. How much money was she sued for? I don't want to give specific numbers, but it will take about 4 to 5 years to get back to where we were prior to this happening. If my wife takes on full time after she is done with community service and hands over the majority of her paycheck, it may take less than 4 years. Are kids involved? No, we don't have kids and not planning on having any. What next? That's what I need help with. I've sat down with my wife a few times since the post, and I can feel some resistance coming from her about starting couples therapy. I think she's irritated at her parents for offering to pay for therapy for us. She has stated that she would rather us solve our problems together without interference from someone she doesn't know. She's afraid she isn't going to like any therapist we find, and that the therapist will attack her throughout our sessions. I've tried explaining to her that the therapist isn't there to blame anyone, that they would try to help us and that it would be a safe space for her to talk and vent about whatever she needs. I've brought up the idea of therapy every night since the post, and each time she has had an excuse along the lines of it won't help, the therapist will gang up on her, she isn't going to like the therapist / the therapist won't like her, or we can solve our own problems at home. I totally forgot how mad that story was about the levels this person went to try and ruin someone else's life like that. Many opportunities she could have turned around and said, look, what I'm doing here is messed up and I need to stop here, but it didn't, and it just continues to do so. And I'm not sure I'll be able to look at that person like from the husband's point of view in the same way again, especially when she's not even considering therapy at all. But what do you guys make of this one? Woo-wee. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for spending your time with me today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, support, and time always means the absolute world. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows.